So, welcome back to another episode of the Japanese Shibaru podcast. We're still discussing the seasonal anime of spring. We're starting off this time with Umamusume Cinderella Grey, episode 2. So, this episode just kicks off right where the last one left off, with Oguru Cap getting to join a team finally from the guy that was scouting her. And he basically tried to convince her to go with him so she can compete in the regional race and also be eligible to compete in the Tokyo Derby, which is the first major step for the Umamusume people. And that's where everybody tries to show off that they are ready for the big leagues. So she ends up joining because obviously she was like, well, if I don't join, I'm not going to be able to race. So she joins, and while she joins, her friend Belno is also like with her. Kind of, she seems more like a supporting character at the moment, but she does seem to be like in the right headspace. And she was also trying to get scouted. Luckily for her, the guy that scouted Cap hasn't had an extra place for her, so she was allowed to join, and they're pretty much gonna go train with him. Um, yeah, and then afterwards they just start getting ready for the first race, and we see the bullies that were bullying Cap in the previous episode kind of lament that they lost to her, and even one of them pointed out that, man, we lost to her, and I even undid her shoes. So it made them even uh it made him more hateful towards her. And as we're seeing this happen, we see March, who is pretty much the top student, or like the supposedly top athlete uh during this school year, and she's over there training, and it seems like she gasses out really quickly, but her sprints are insane from start, and also her acceleration is like above the pack. And then we cut to our girl train, and also Belno training, and you just see that there's such a big difference between the two, as Oguri uh pretty much can keep running and running and running and running, while as Belno was kind of like, after like the first major lap, she was kind of done. So they were like, okay, well, we're just gonna have to train your stamina. And Ogre got some special type of training based on where they were gonna compete. And this is where we get even like a little bit more as to why Ogre runs a lot, and then she just says, because I can. So I think it is very motivational, where it's like there's a lot of people that can't really run. So a person that was incapable of doing that, not being able to do it, also just makes it much more relatable, because now you have somebody that is doing it because they weren't able to prior, and it's nice seeing that, and it makes you get more attached to Agree. And unfortunately for her, or fortunately for her, the main rival gets into the contest that she's gonna start showing off first. So once they get to it, the one that really proclaims that they're gonna make it to the Tokyo Derby is March, as she walks up and is kind of like refusing to lose to Ogiri, and even challenges her of sorts to be like, yeah, I am your rival. Doesn't really say it, but you can tell that she views Ogiri as a rival. And as they're kicking off, Oguri is all the way in the back, and March sprints to first place. So then we have March, who accelerates it all the way to first, and Oguri, who's all the way in the back. And you're kind of wondering, man, maybe she was kind of overdoing it. Maybe she's kind of overtraining it. But then it came around to the curves, and you start seeing like even somebody else was past March, and and then of course we have this little flashback to this special training that Oguri did for this race, which was basically ankle training. She was training her ankles all week to prepare for this race because the guy that got her to join the team knew that this racing ground was going to be kind of sandy, so it would make it better for her to kick, to use her heel or ankle to kind of maneuver better as she stepped forward. And it was working. As soon as it hit like the last 200 meters, Oguri started hitting high gear. She started realizing, man, that training I did really paid off, and the guy really knows his stuff. So then she gets all the way to where March is, and they're going head and head. And at one point, Oguri kind of has like this pain in her ankle, which is kind of an indicator of probably she kind of sprained her ankle, or she overtrained for the race. And then the episode just ends off with them about to, one of them hit the finish line, but we don't know who it is, and that's what I'm assuming what the next episode's going to be about. So my overall thoughts on episode 2 is that I'm really enjoying it. I'm really enjoying Oguri. It's a very relatable character, someone who just strives to be the best they can, and somebody that wants to do what she loves. Someone that for the longest felt like she couldn't do it, but now that for some miracle or through perseverance and hard work, she was able to overcome her own weakness from birth to be able to run like the rest. So that is very touching, and I really enjoyed that aspect of Umamusume Cinderella Grave. So rating it like a nice 8 out of 10 for this week. One Piece, episode 1125. So this episode kicks off with where it kind of left off, with Kisamaru about to invade Egghead Island, or like about to clash with Sentomaru. And for as long as this episode was, for like the beginning of this episode, it seemed like Sentomaru was holding his own despite the difference in power that Kizaru had. And especially we also find out that and that Kizaru and Sentomaru knew each other from way back, as we have like a mini flashback of Sentomaru when he first met Vegapunk and Kizaru, as he took out bears and proclaimed that he was strong. And during that, Vegapunk was like, well, I could use a bodyguard, and kind of hired him. And pretty much Sentomaru's whole reason for saying yes was because he wanted food, and because the village is supposedly weak, even though I think the Vegapunk said that they kicked them out. So as he joined Vegapunk, Kizaru was the one that handled his training, to which we know like Sentomaru considers himself like the strongest shield or strongest defense, and pretty much Kizaru's like, well, I'm the one that taught you, so just imagine how strong I am. And while Kizaru is having this battle with Sentomaru, there's still much more stuff going on in the background, like the Straw Hats and Vegapunk are trying to get rid of the shield that's holding them captive in the island, or like on top, and the Marines are having a hard time fighting against the sea beast that are kind of wrecking their ships to the point where even like it. I really love that. And while we're seeing these sea beast attack Navy ships, we actually see how frightening they are as we get kind of like a point of view of the Navy soldiers that are just like cadets or very low in the rankings, and it just puts into perspective like, man, these people are just like kind of like normal people coming in here to try to do a job, and now they're getting attacked by a high tech monster. So really really good stuff there, and we get to see a bit more of the vice admirals kind of head into action as they take on some of the sea beast, and they Doll takes on like the pacifista, the newest version of the pacifistas. And we have like the Straw Hat crew kind of look into the match with Sentomaru and Kizaru, and it's kind of like, damn, he really did a number on us back in Sabaody. So it's kind of like our poor crew kind of has like a bit of PTSD or a bit of uncomfortable memories with Kizaru per se. And the animation between Kizaru and Sentomaru's fight was really great, really stunning. And we do have now, after the fight with Kizaru is done, there's more things to worry about, because now that Kizaru is done with Sentomaru, and because he's made out of light, he can pretty much cross over the shield that they have for the lab. So nothing they can really do about that. But because Kizaru's there, our good boy, well, not even our good boy, the CP0 agent, Lucci, finally has enough, like, I guess, determination, a lot more confidence to be like, yeah, me and Kizaru can take you guys on. So he tries and attack Vegapunk, but Stussy gets in the way, and it seems like he did a good finger stab on poor Stussy, which I still like find interesting that Sanji or Zoro didn't pick up on that bloodlust, and neither of them were able to defend Vegapunk, or aside from Stussy. But it did lead to a good moment with Zoro and Luffy clashing with one another, and this pretty much just puts into perspective that, yes, when Luffy's not here, the one that takes on like the next strongest one is Zoro. Meanwhile, Sanji makes sure Kaku doesn't interfere anymore, as they can no longer trust CP0 because of what Lucci did. And now we, as we're having that fight being set up, we have the next fight being set up as Kizaru makes it to the next level, sees the big Vegapunk mech, and is about to blow it when he realizes that Luffy finally gets out of that boat, or out of the mech, and then you just the animation of him charging up using advanced Conqueror's Haki to yeah, to use Conqueror's Haki against Kizaru. And that whole like 30-second animation, stellar, amazing. Really love that. And the episode ends off with that Luffy giving Kizaru a nice kick and telling him, hey, we're 100 times stronger now, which is just a really nice callback to Sabaody when Shaki told the Straw Hat crew that Rayleigh was 100 times stronger than any of them during that time, during right before the pre-time skip. So Now we know Luffy can hold his own. Probably Zoro can hold his own. Sanji can hold his own. But Luffy's the first one that makes the makes a move and goes for him. So overall, this episode, it's I could just getting better and better each episode. I feel like the animation hasn't dropped quality. I feel like they're, despite it only being like a chapter being adapted, a lot of the stuff they're adding to the episode kind of enhances a lot of the stuff that happened in the manga and makes it for a better much better experience, much better time. And yeah, love this episode. I'm giving it a 9 out of 10. So Lazarus episode 2, really good episode. One of the things I really like is how they keep bringing back Hepna, and how essentially this became such a big deal because instead of using it just for like its purpose, which was just to alleviate or get rid of pain, a lot of people were taking it as a recreational drug. So everybody just kind of got blindsided by that. And then we get back to the crew with Gilberto just kind of not vibing with the whole thing of I'm gonna keep you captive until we get the doctor, or at least make use of you till you help us find the doctor. Which once again, he breaks out of prisons. He's pretty much a free spirit. He doesn't like being held captive to one place. He pretty much likes having his freedom, or enjoys escaping out of things that are not supposed to be escapable. Maybe he gets a thrill out of that, as we later find out. And yeah, we also have like more stuff as people keep trying to figure out where this Dr. Skinner is. They even try going to a lot of his properties, and in one of them they try asking the gardener if he knows where he is, or like if he knew of anything that could lead to where he is, and the gardener's just like, nah, not really. Kind of told him info that was not really relevant as a way to capture that guy. But yeah, we have the crew who is trying to find clues within his past also, and through his properties and all this other stuff. And one of the things that caught me really not off guard, but kind of caught my attention, is that this guy did absolutely everything to the point where he could be viewed as a saint. He donated charity. He tried to do good when it came to climate change, and being really active in that, trying to prevent the world from ending, which is the irony, because now he is the cause of possibly the end of the world thanks to his drug. And yeah, one of the major things that happened was before he left, he had this UN meeting with everybody, where he was really trying to voice his opinion about how the climate change was going to melt the icebergs, and everybody kind of took him for a lunatic and just kind of left the meeting. And I think that's what really did him in, and what really drove him to be like, yeah, well, I'm creating this drug so they can actually pay attention. Maybe even the drug is just, the drug being deadly, just a hoax, which I could hope. But they did mention that in the every episode they have mentioned how like this caused great tragedy to the world, or this caused like the end of the world, or very chaotic world. So as our crew finds certain hints as to where Skinner could be, Gilberto tries to go with the girl, and as they're driving, they're kind of exchanging things of how they got caught by Hirsch, and basically Gilberto kind of let it all out, like, yeah, so I got like 880 years of prison time, which then the girl kind of was about to ditch him and leave him, because you're not any normal person has that amount of years said as their sentence. And this is where we get the whole explanation of why he's been sentenced for so long to prison. That's because every time you escape a prison, they double the time you have to serve. So Gilberto was just so good at escaping that it kept racking up to 800 and something years in prison. So like multiple lifetimes. So the other part of the crew, Doug and Leland, are go to another place, and they meet other people there that are not necessarily looking for Dr. Skinner, but they are looking for this guy that owes them money. So it almost seemed like they got caught in a trap, but in reality, it wasn't really gonna change much because the guy. Whoops, sorry, my bad. Um, the guy, that caught Leland was like, "Oh, so you're not really after our guy? That's a shame." And then they just got kind of buddy with one another. Meanwhile, Gilberto and the girl had a much rougher time as they made it to this is safe, and the guy that was needed for Doug and Leland was there, but because he was there, a lot of people were looking for him, like some Russians and some Mexican gangs started arriving, and even the FBI started arriving, and then it just turned into a whole like all out war in there where everybody was shooting everybody, and nobody was really trying to see what was going on or like try to see where what the other people were up to. They were just kind of shoot first and ask forgiveness later. But then we have the other girl that stayed behind, who's kind of monitoring a bunch of cameras to try to find Dr. Skinner, and we find out that there's multiple Dr. Skinners, or like multiple people that look like Dr. Skinners that were being picked up by cameras. So now we have a thing where probably nobody really knows what Dr. Skinner looks like, or like maybe he had a bunch of people do the surgery so that he could just avoid everybody and not really have to deal with this. So essentially this just brings them back to zero. So like they make no progress in capturing Dr. Skinner. They just got to be a bit more dynamic they got a bit to talk to their crewmates a bit more and get to know them. So yeah, that's it on that's pretty much it that happened in the episode. My overall thoughts is a bit more of a letdown than episode 1. Episode 1 had a lot more action. This one felt like they were trying to be more dropping more lore in it and trying to flesh out the story more, but there was like it was just too much talking for my taste, and there was very little action, but the action that it did show was really good. So overall, this one is like a 7 out of 10 for me. So To Be Hero X episode 2. Yeah, so so before I get started on what happened in the episode, I want to say that so far this has been probably my favorite new show of the season. So really been enjoying it. Episode just kind of starts off with Nice and Moon interacting, and really we really find out that this is we really find out the whole relationship between Nice and Moon, and what it was really about and how it came to be. And we also learned about Moon, which was really good. So Moon was originally a blogger who then got more popular and started getting more trust. So her that trust started turning into powers for her, and luckily for her, as she's a blogger, it kind of manifested in teleportation power. So this kind of lets us know that a lot of the superhero powers that people have are probably due to how they gain notoriety and how they gain people's trust. So like if, for example, in Moon's case, you're a blogger, so your power is gonna be teleportation. If like you gain trust for like, let's say the Enlighter, he was like very tech savvy, so he's always gonna have a lot of stuff to do with technology. And for Nice, I guess, because he was just the optimal kind of like good looking, uh, probably really nice person, kind of like Superman. He just gained Superman like abilities because of that. So that's what I found really interesting, and that's about this episode. That's how they decided to say this is how people get powers. So, and not only about the powers, but because of how they get attached and parasocial to these heroes, it kind of makes them even more susceptible to fake relationships, which is what Moon and Nice had, as their relationship kind of started blossoming because a lot of the fans kind of wanted them to be together. So because they wanted them to be together, the agency, or where Nice and Moon both belong to, was like, well, this is what your fans want, so this is what they're gonna get. And so it almost seems like if you're a hero, you have even less freedom than what you originally thought. Like, for example, Moon was able to go travel everywhere, but because now she is pretty much confined to where Nice is, as the hero, as her fans and his fans want her to be with him. So now her powers kind of work in a opposite direction, where instead of going where she wants, it's where she's most needed or most wanted to be at. And this is where we kind of really did find out that Ling, who is now Nice, when he found her the other night, about pretty much covered in blood, it was just fake. She was faking her death because she really does not like being Nice's girlfriend, especially now that she knows that the current Nice, who is Ling, is not nice. So now it's like, damn, well, now I gotta be with this loser. And she just wants to be free of her commitment to the persona Nice. And meanwhile, the actual like representative, or like their agent, pretty much tells them, well, you guys are gonna have to get married, or and you're not coming out of this room till you two are an actual couple that we can present to the world. So they pretty much even got less freedom, where now she can't even teleport away from the hotel. She has to teleport right there where Ling and her are at. So more notoriety, more fans. Although you get more superpower ability, you actually gain a lot less freedom. Which, once again, really cool concept. You're really getting tied down to a certain aspect that people like you for and what you're known for, and you don't really have a say in the matter. Otherwise, you start losing that power that you gain through their trust. So this kind of makes a bit more sense as to why Nice kind of ended his life in episode 1, where maybe got to the point where he just felt so powerful, but yet so powerless, because he has to be held accountable for what people want him to be, not for what he wants to be. Whereas he maybe wanted to be a hero, these people want him to be a certain type of hero that stays with Moon and always does good, always looks good. Not, and he we find out in this episode that there was another person involved with Nice in his earlier time, where now he also was trying to find out that if Nice was actually there, because this guy Nemesis, which was, I guess you could say, his arch rival or his his antagonist per se, uh, as he shows up to destroy the fake wedding between Ling slash Nice and Moon. And we know they were using this wedding to kind of like fake Moon's death, as and because also Nemesis is within the same agency. It was kind of like even more easily set up, where it was kind of like they had a certain script that they had to follow, but then then they really weren't able to follow it through. And pretty much Ling had to confront Nemesis and let him know, yes, uh, Nice is no longer here. And then we get the backstory between Nemesis and Nice, where when they were young, they wanted to both be heroes and reach the top together. And they were pretty, they seemed a little bit more friendly to one another, especially, and maybe even more than just friends, as supposed, and maybe that's another reason why Nice probably ended himself, where this guy Nemesis was more seen as a antagonist to him as opposed to a rival, so they weren't even being sent out a lot together anymore, unless it was like not even to face each other anymore. As Nice started getting more notoriety and trying and started going up in the ranks, there was less need for Nemesis, who was way below his rank. So there was that separation of hierarchy, also like getting in between Nice and his friendships, which also probably played a part in him jumping off the cliff or jumping off the rooftop. And one of their aims was to be top 10, which I know Ling is probably gonna end up at least top 10, kind of carry on the will of Nice and Nemesis. And yeah, they have this whole fight after during that during this exchange, and the fight was incredible. It switched from 3D to 2D, and then back to 3D, and then in the end they did end up faking Moon's death, which it was just fake blood, but they made it very convincing. Even the music was hitting, and the voice acting also made me be like, damn, oh, that actually hit me for a bit. And then we proceeded to Ling saying his goodbyes to Moon, and through the month plus that they spent together, you can see that Moon has a different view of Ling, because even though he was supposed to be nice, he ended up not being nice, and that was something that Moon actually really enjoyed about him, that he wasn't just nice. And yeah, that's pretty much it on the episode. A lot of over so overall thoughts on it on episode 2. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Like I said, the stuff about heroes getting less freedom as they gain more power, really interesting concept. Even the fact that every everything is controlled for them, and they really have no agency of their own. It's kind of interesting seeing that their personal lives, their business lives, and their hero lives are all dictated by somebody else, and it's not necessarily just the agency; it's the people that got them to become heroes in the first place that are holding them back from being their true selves. Which was another really interesting part I really enjoyed, where with Ling, where he started noticing that he was developing some of the habits that Nice had, higher. So really, really great stuff on To Be Hero X. I'm giving this episode another 9 out of 10. My Hero Academia Vigilantes, episode 2. Uh, yeah, we kick off right where the episode 1 left off, with Eraser meeting our our trio for the anime, and pretty much him and Knuckle Duster are going at it, where Eraser's trying to use his powers on him, and he realized, oh, it doesn't really work. And he thought he had like super strength, or at least like strength enhancing quirk, which he didn't. We learned this episode that Knuckle Duster is actually one of the people that is quirkless in the world. And it's really interesting seeing somebody who's quirkless, somebody who hasn't had proper hero training, go up against an actual hero with proper hero training who has a quirk, but his quirk is not really strong or per se. But the fact that he has the hero training and special training to use his bandages makes it really interesting to see how close Knuckle Duster is to just being able to match him with brute force. And yeah, we have Koichi and Pop Step that are kind of going after the worker that was with them, that they were kind of harassing the previous episode, and it turned out that he probably had something to do with the drug, or at least knows of it, because he started running as soon as an actual hero came in. So it made him very suspicious. And we have the same people that have been ambushing Koichi once again try to get at him, and he ends up trying to evade all of them quickly as Pop Step continues to chase the worker with the briefcase. And once Pop Step actually catches the worker and his figurines fall off, we learn that his figurines actually had or just like a cover for the injection that this drug is used for. So now we have this rampaging quirk guy start grabbing people and start playing with them as if they're like toys. And we really get to see Koichi kind of step up here as they start really going after him. And in one of those moments that Knuckle Duster gives him, and Pop Step gets sent flying. This is where Koichi kind of decides, okay, well, this is where I'm gonna shine. Uses his ability to slide and glide up the wall, and then be able to jump to catch Pop Step. And I love when this happened, because this is when Koichi was like, man, I know my quirk's not good. I know I'm probably not good enough to get the hero license. I know all of this, but even I want to be able to have a moment of being a hero. So he gets his hero moment as he gets to leap off the wall and save Pop Step, and in return he kind of has to make a bit of a safe landing into trash bags, just so he doesn't fall flat and end himself. Luckily for our trio, though, we have Eraserhead, or Aizawa, who pops up and is able to handle this giant, the worker who turns into a giant because he injected himself with the drug. And of course, the other thugs that keep trying to jump Koichi get taken care of by by Knuckle Duster. So really, really good stuff. And then afterwards, we have Knuckle Duster kind of have a talk with Aisawa or Koichi or the group, and it's like, listen, sometimes it's gonna be easier if we don't ask for permission to stop the bad guys. Sometimes we just have to stop the bad guys and then ask for forgiveness. As you know, in this in the My Hero world, you gotta have a proper license in order to do hero-like activities. So not doing them, you're kind of going up against the actual law. And Knuckle Duster could it's just like just pretend like you didn't know, or like pretend that you didn't do anything wrong. You were just doing what a law-abiding citizen would do, and just ask for your forgiveness, and then they'll probably end up giving it to you. So it seems like he's really experienced. And then we have a fight that's about to break out, which Koichi has to go and stop. And as he's trying to go stop them, we have a flashback of him talking to Knuckle Duster again, where Knuckle Duster's like, "Man, we really gotta get rid of your nice guy nickname as your hero or slash vigilante, name." And they come up with the Crawler based on his ability, as he has to be 3 parts of his body have to be touching solid for him to glide. So it seems like he's gonna be a crawler through and through. And as Knuckle Duster makes his appearance, he tries to just beat up the kids that were fighting. And then we get somebody else that shows up that has taken the drug, and his quirk of hardening just goes to the extreme where he hardens and gets spikes on his back. But Knuckle Duster is able to just take him out, especially thanks to Koichi's ability of gliding and his overall strength, where we're being used to take the guy down, and then he just pummeled him in the ground. And yeah, we have them leaving the guy there, and then Pop Step kind of gets the 2 boys that were fighting prior, and is like, well, here's a way to contact me, and if you see anybody suspicious or anybody that you see passing this drug that makes people turn into villains because their quirks going rampage, give me a call. So now we have Koichi and Knuckle Duster, the apprentice and master, and Pop Step, who is also with them, just kind of amassing their popularity and using her own popularity for the better. And yeah, overall this episode was great. I really enjoyed it. I think the whole idea of like vigilantes and how they're being portrayed here is great. Something that not really shown in the My Hero world, where like these are the people that act first before the heroes can, or like these are the people that can do what the heroes can't. So I think it's really showing how essential the vigilantes are, and how much less stressful it would be if somebody if somebody or like everybody picked up slack when the heroes were not able to be there. Uh, yeah. Rating this episode 8 out of 10. Summer Pockets, episode 2. So this episode kind of starts off in an interesting way, where it's not starting off with our main MC. It's starting off with one of the girls that's sleeping with them, Umi, who we get like a mini flashback to her trying to have breakfast with her dad, and her dad not really being as present as Hairi is. So you can kind of see the fact that Hairi stays and is able to eat breakfast with her, or like actually eats her food while she's there, is really warming her and really making her feel great and appreciated, of course. Uh, but yeah, then this episode is just kind of like Harai, you know, going all around the place, uh, seeing all the girls that are gonna be spending that he's gonna be spending summer with. Uh, First he meets the girl, Shiro, Shiroha, the one that was swimming in the previous episode, and she pretty much just gets to him and is like, "Yeah, thanks for your advice in swimming. It really helped out." And he's like, "Oh yeah, no, no problem. I'm always glad to help." And then he goes and sees some other people. And one of the kids that sees him first is like, "Oh, you're like the falling angel that my grandma has warned us about." So now, because of what he said about to that grandma in episode 1, now everybody's kind of calling him a falling angel now. So really interesting. Then he sees a girl at the lighthouse. So that's first of all, that's really interesting, seeing somebody just on top of the lighthouse and not really contemplating if they'll fall or anything like that. He asks her like, "What are you doing up there?" And she just lets him know, "Listen, I'm not scared of being up here, and what I'm really doing up here is trying to figure out my purpose." And that kind of like hits a home for a boy, as he's like, that's really interesting. Maybe I should do that, like, or why is that resonating with me? He starts thinking like, yeah, that resonates for me in a type of way, especially giving, maybe that's why I came here, you know. And then we meet the shirtless girl hunter Nomiki, who then tells him like, we're actually we're actually glad that you came to this island, and we want to throw you a party, as we don't get many visitors around here. We want to make everybody feel welcome. And as as soon as he gets there, he meets the girl that he got a nice feel of in the street the other day, and is like, okay, well, shoot, thanks, like they're kind of like playing off that they don't really know each other. Or they play off that they didn't meet each other in that way. And he does meet a nun girl. Uh, he meets Sen, who is up in the mountains, or like something like that. He's not in town. He's somewhere outside, and Harry has to go get him. And they do play ping pong while he's there. And then we get the hottest day episode, where he goes gets ice cream and or shaved ice from a store, and then they're like, "Oh, you don't have to eat it out there. You can eat it inside." So he goes, tries to go inside and eats to eat ice shaved, and he meets the girl that he touched once again, where she was just changing, as she's a part-time worker at that store. And then pretty much afterwards, they're kind of like going back and forth, throwing uh, ice shavings at one another to kind of get through the day. And then we just keep seeing him just go around, and he starts contemplating about why he's in this island, or like what was his purpose for coming to this island. Like, does he not remember? Does he want to forget something? And he really comes to the realization, man, I've been doing a lot, and it's been like less than a week here. And he meets once again. He meets the Shiroha once again at the beach this time, and they get to talking, and Shiroka kind of asks him like, "Why you here?" Really tries to have a deep conversation with them, and he pretty much lets it all out with her. I guess as she is the more quiet one, the one that won't say much, and he pretty much lets her know like, listen, back home, I was struggling. I was feeling like I was drowning, like I felt kind of caged in. I felt trapped. I He lets her know that he doesn't even know if he remembers how to have fun in the summer, which we get kind of like a small flashback of him swimming, and it pretty much lets us know that because he was probably part of this swim team, and he probably was a good swimmer. He had a lot of expectations, and because of those expectations, he had to probably work a lot and probably had a lot less free time during the summer, as that was the main time when he can actually go out practice swimming and all that. So his summers were pretty much dedicated to that sport. At least that's what I'm assuming from that small flashback. And yeah, this pretty much lets him realize, I I am good. I like this island because in here I can just I can it feels like I'm remembering how to be a kid again. If and it feels like I can have fun again. So really good stuff from Summer Pockets. Yeah, overall I'm really liking how this anime is slowly like building up the character, slowly building up the connections he has with each character. It seems he's gonna have very unique dynamics with everybody, and I just hope that all these other characters also have a bit more depth to them, as opposed to just being the person that that our main MC just meets on the whim for the day. Uh, but yeah, I'm this episode I am rating a bit. I'm rating an 8 out of 10. So really good stuff. But that'll be it on this episode. So YouTube, if you like what I discuss, want to keep seeing more of this stuff more frequently, just like, comment, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. And if you want to see this a bit earlier, I always stream these discussions on Twitch. So follow my Twitch. It'll be in the description below. But until next time, bye. And bye, Twitch.